What's going on, guys? Jay Cofield, the Keto Nurse. I got another video for you here this week. This is going to be a pretty good one, I feel. Only for the simple fact that I don't think there will be a single person who sees this video that this won't relate to in some way. This video and this topic hits close to home to me. And given the statistics that I am about to give you throughout this video, I know it will hit close to home to you, if not personally, or somebody that you know. So today's topic is going to be about diabetes and the effects of a ketogenic diet on diabetes. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of misleading information out there in the guidelines that the government has set forth. And a lot of the diabetic guidelines that are set for these people with this illness are personally outrageous. I will cover that. I will show you, and guys, it literally takes common sense. But I understand that we'd like to trust people and the advice that they give in the medical field and everything. I'm not giving medical advice throughout this video. I want to make that clear. I'm not going to tell you to start taking any medicine. I'm not going to tell you to stop taking any medicine. All I'm going to do is present you with facts, common knowledge, and questions that you can answer yourself that make perfect sense, guys. Perfect sense. I'll be showing you charts. I'll be showing you studies. Apologize if this movie gets a little long, but this is one of the most important subjects that I will touch on throughout this entire time is diabetes. So please, please, please take a minute and watch this video, because it may not only change your life or somebody else's, it may very well possibly save somebody's life. So keep it keto. God bless. I love y'all. Get healthy, get happy. Diabetes in the ketogenic diet. Stay tuned and enjoy this video. Thank y'all. Bye. All right, guys. So here's this chart right here, and just look at this. So this is from the American Diabetes Association. 30 million people are affected with diabetes. 84 million people are pre-diabetic. $322 billion in the healthcare costs, and that was just in 2016. $1 in $5 goes to treat diabetes illnesses through the medical costs, not to include unemployment benefits and time off of work and the decrease in production that is produced when someone has diabetes-related illnesses. It is predicted by the year 2035 that 592 million people in the entire world will be affected by type 2 diabetes. Okay, so this next chart is a chart showing when the low fat guidelines came out. It was issued from the government, where they started saying that fat was the culprit and not sugar. There is literally an investigative journalist, and I think it was 2006, that uncovered documents where these companies were paid, I think back then it was like $50,000 a piece, which would be a lot of money, to literally put the science out there that says that sugar is better than fat was, which is where these guidelines came from. So this chart is going to show you what happened when we took away the real food and started adding sugar in the place of all that. So you can see right here the obesity rate before these guidelines were set. And as soon as they set these guidelines, boom. Okay, so now the next chart is going to show you a couple things. One is when the dietary guidelines were initiated by the government. And then two, when they came out with the food guide pyramid. I know everybody remembers that big triangle with the food guide pyramid in it. And what was at the bottom of it? Carbohydrates. Where was fat? The very, very top little triangle there. So check out what happens when we started doing this and where the rates of diabetes went. This is going to shock you right here.
Senator George McGovern led the charge for the U.S. government to adopt the nutritional guidelines touted by Dr. Keyes. Shortly thereafter, the USDA placed the full weight of their bureaucratic office behind a diet that featured food groups in recommended quantities. If you were in school in the late 70s or early 80s, you likely learned all about this great new diet that would keep you healthy.
And you can get it anywhere in the world for as good as you eat.
This was reflected in the food guide pyramids, where suddenly bread, pasta, potatoes, rice, all these foods that in the early 1960s were still considered uniquely fattening were now foods that should be the staple of our diets.
When they came up with the dietary goals, and they were based on weak science, and there was a lot of pushback from scientists, from nutritionists who said, even though they agreed with the recommendations, they said, this is a bad idea because we don't have the science to support this kind of experimentation on the public. It did not matter. The public and the media swallowed it hook, line, and sinker.
There was not one clinical trial to see whether that diet would make us healthier than if we continued to eat our fatty diets, which was considered to be so detrimental and dangerous. Not one single clinical trial. And the scientists at the time, who were independent of industry and government, warned that. They said, we haven't had these trials. How can we expose the American public to this giant experiment unless we know what the outcome will be? Well, the reality is 30 years later, we know exactly what the outcome has been.
Okay, so now check this next chart out. This chart is showing you what happened when the government and everyone came out that says that you got to decrease your fat intake because that's how you get fat. But check this chart out. We started eating less fat, protein stayed the same, and more carbohydrates according to what they told us to do. And look at the obesity rate. We got fatter as we ate less fat. So explain to me how that works. If carbohydrates are what you need and fat is what you don't need, then why are we getting fatter by eating less fat? Tell me what sense that makes, guys.
Hypertension continues to climb steadily. Obesity levels have skyrocketed. And metabolic syndrome has become commonplace. Sound health and safety recommendations should produce favorable results. In the first two examples, that's precisely what happened. But when it came to the aforementioned dietary guidelines, the opposite has occurred. Clearly, the results have been disastrous. Is it a coincidence that our current health crisis began shortly after these nutritional guidelines were introduced?
The legacy of the food pyramid is a great example of an epic mistake that has caused more chronic disease in modern times than anything.
The guidelines have always been evaluated on how well they were followed. They have never been evaluated on how well they work. It says that in the 2010 dietary guidelines themselves. All of our dietary decisions, from our general concept of what is healthy, to what our children are served in their school lunchrooms, to what information we get on the package, has never been tested for health outcomes. We should be horrified by this.
All the things that we have lionized through the food pyramid and the American Dietetic Association and all the other major health organizations, these are foods that are making us sick, fat, tired, and depressed, and that's the legacy of the food pyramid.
The Western diet, or the standard American diet, is an absolute crime against humanity. It is making us sick and fat, and as the boundaries of the developed world expand, more people are becoming fat and sick.
And here you can just see some of the benefits of exogenous ketones, the drink. And then on this next slide, you can see a lot of the benefits of a ketogenic diet and exogenous ketones. Okay, guys, so I made a couple points there. I showed you a couple charts and the facts and the science behind that. So now I'm just going to kind of rant for a minute. So please just bear with me. It's important. So what I got here, these are papers that are diabetic teaching instructions on nutrition. I'm going to read this for you. It says, choose healthy carbohydrates. Whole grain bread, cereals, brown rice, pasta, fruits and vegetables, beans and peas. You may start with around 45 to 60 grams of carbohydrates per meal, depending on your situation. So what is your situation? Your situation is that you have diabetes. So what we're doing is, they say that the brain needs 120 milligrams or 120 grams of carbohydrates or sugar to function. Your body produces that naturally by itself and from fat oxidation or fat burning. Remember, on a long time ago, I told you that a fat cell, fat molecule, has 3 fatty acids attached to it and a glycerol backbone. The glycerol backbone is sugar. By burning fat, your body will replenish its own sugar stores. You have glycogen in your liver, which is sugar, that it can make that if it needs it. Your body is called gluconeogenesis. Your body will make its own sugar. You don't need to consume this extra sugar. So let's talk about this for a second. You have diabetes. What is the definition of diabetes? Sugar in the blood. You have too much blood sugar. So if y'all saw that documentary called What the Health, that was the biggest vegan propaganda film I've ever seen in my entire life. They say that fat gives you diabetes. The definition of diabetes is not having too much fat in the blood. It's having too much sugar in the blood from consumption of carbohydrates and sugars. So tell me what sense that makes. It is unbelievable how people can just buy into this stuff. So what they're doing basically is, you have diabetes. It is a disease of carbohydrate toxicity, put it that way. You have to take insulin because after a while, your pancreas, it slows down. It gives up. It can't, put it this way. So like, there's an old man inside the house, really hard of hearing, almost blind. You and some of your friends come over and you knock on the door, but the guy don't hear you. So a couple more friends come up and y'all start beating a little harder. The guy still don't hear you. So now you got to get your whole neighborhood over there to beat on this guy's door for him to hear you, to open the door up. Think about that as insulin resistance. After so long, your body doesn't recognize those signals anymore, and it takes more insulin to open that cell up for you to utilize it. So after a while, you can't produce that, so that's when you got to start taking shots of insulin. Well, what does insulin do? Insulin is an extremely inflammatory hormone. It does damage to our nerves. It does damage to our brain. It does damage to specifically our vascular system, our coronary arteries, our peripheral arteries, our veins. So when you see diabetes, what's one thing you see? Look down at their feet. They probably are missing a couple toes because there's no blood flow down there. It's small vessel disease. And then what do they tell you? Check your feet often, because insulin and sugar damages our nerves. They have diabetic neuropathy is what it's called. You don't feel as well. So think about it. So what they're doing is just putting a Band-Aid over the scratch. We're not addressing the problem. We are masking the symptoms. It blows my freaking mind. I'm diabetic, which means by definition, I cannot metabolize or utilize carbohydrates or sugar. Why on God's green earth would you prescribe me a diet to where I'm eating 60 grams of carbohydrates per meal, only to cover it up with more insulin? How about we address the problem at hand here? Carbohydrates and sugar are the problem. There was a book back in like the 1800s that came out, and one of the doctors who was like a founder and big on this diabetes said there's never been a more obvious disease of what we can do to cure this other than diabetes. It's right there for you to see. A ketogenic diet, let's talk about the benefits of a ketogenic diet on carbohydrates or on diabetes. I mean, it's simple. You can't tolerate carbohydrates, so don't eat them. A ketogenic diet will provide you with the fuel that you need from exogenous ketones or ketone production in your body's own utilization of its own body fat. The science behind this, there's a study that's trying to be published in 2018. It was done in 2016 by Sarah Hallberg. She put her diabetic, I think it was, let me see, I wrote it, 238 patients. See? 238 patients. Put them on a ketogenic diet. 89% of those patients were able to stop their insulin or reduce it by over half. What else do you need? Taking more insulin is doing more damage to your body, and it's covering up what the issue is to begin with. Stop eating the carbohydrates and the sugars. It's killing us. You know what the number one cause of death in diabetics are? Yes. Heart disease. So think about that. Heart disease, strokes, Alzheimer's, all that stuff are related to diabetes. So if we fix diabetes, we can fix all these other problems. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's freaking common sense, guys. I'm sorry I just get so aggravated about this because it literally makes zero sense. Absolute 0 cents. Diabetes. Here, eat these carbohydrates. And then take a little bit of insulin to cover it up. That would be like me saying I'm allergic to peanuts, but I really do like peanut butter sandwiches, so I'm going to eat this peanut butter sandwich and jab myself in the leg with an EpiPen every day. Do I need to say anything else? Take control of your health, guys. I mean, Jesus. And, you know, we're all concerned about the cost of medical care and Medicaid and Medicare and insurance and all this other stuff. You fix this, you eliminate $338 billion from the healthcare system. It's conspiracy, basically. I mean, people are going to lose money on it. There's no money to be made in preventative medicine. Zero. Ask any physician out there, any doctor that you know, and ask them how much nutritional learning they had in medical school. It's probably about an hour. They're here to cure illnesses with medicine. That's what they're here to do. They don't focus on preventative medicine. So, I could rant on about this all day, but guys, this is something that's so serious, so important, and it's killing people. And it's up to you to take control of your life. You know, it is completely up to you. So, I hope this hit home to some people. I hope you saw my passion behind this, and I hope that you know that there is hope out there for you. This can be changed. You know, exogenous ketone drinks have been shown to increase insulin sensitivity in diabetic patients, which means your body's naturally insulin works better. A ketogenic diet has been proven to reverse type 2 diabetes. There's tons and tons of information out there on it. It doesn't take me telling you. You can look it up. It's simple. It's out there. I hope this study gets published in 2018 and the new guidelines come out in 2020, and I hope that they finally decide that, because if you look on any ADA recommended diet, it will literally say at the bottom that these have not been scientifically proven to work. We have been on a nutritional experiment since the 60s and 70s, and it has not worked. It has led to the biggest epidemic of healthcare crisis in our nation's history. So how much longer do we have to continue watching people die from all this stuff? So take control of your life, guys. I'm here if you need me. I'm here to answer questions. I love y'all. Get healthy, get happy. Keep it keto. If you need anything, shoot me a message. My info is at the end of this video. And I'm sorry that it was long. Trust me, it could have been a lot longer because I can talk about this stuff for a long time. So anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. Love you. Bye.